that none of the solar vendors I called wanted to even come to my house. So I finally talked one of these guys into coming out to the house, all right? And in between the point where I made the appointment and he actually showed up, I got an email from about the solar co-op thing. Who knew, right? League of Women Voters and Sierra Club, two organizations that, regardless of where I lived, I've had some involvement for over 20 years, especially with the Sierra Club. So I said, I trust these folks. I'm going to check it out. Meanwhile, the only guy I could talk into come to my house came out and he said, well, $12,500. I go, yikes, you know, that's better than I used to be, but it was still like a chunk of change. I was hoping to do this for like 10 grand or less, you know. So anyway, I went to the co-op, went to the initial meetings, I read everything on the website. I'm kind of a nerd, so I read a lot of other stuff too. I went to an environmental school. I didn't have Professor Goswami, but I had some other guys that I'm like, at 18 going, why are they making me take these courses? This isn't my major. But you know what? They were some of the most relevant things of all at this point in my life. And going through the co-op process, I did become part of the selection committee. I have to say that Florida Sun was just wonderful because my biggest question, I think the most important question I had is, what questions have we not asked? And poor Angela, who was there for 3 and something hours, said, I think you asked them all. But we really felt confident at this point that we had covered all the bases. We had about 8 people in the room that were from all different walks of life and all different concerns. And am I going to have holes in my roof? What happens if it leaks? You know, we pretty much laid all those things to rest. And we did choose one vendor at the time. I didn't know it, but I went first. And when I talked to this vendor, they came out to the house and he did his little scribble this and measure that and all this kind of stuff, and he comes up with $10,600. I'm like, okay, this is better, this is better. And he looks at me, and of course, I was in sales, so I have to negotiate. I said, I was hoping to do it for under 10 grand. He goes, well, you really want to make this happen. Don't tell anyone I did this. Here I am telling you. He crosses it out and he makes it $9,600. Because what he wanted to do was basically make my payback period for the solar system be between 5 and 6 years. And at that point, it was 5.25 years. Basically, that means that I could keep paying the electric company for 5.25 years, or I could pay for this system for 5.25 years. At least at the end of 5.25 years, I would own the system. And then the added benefit is I'm not putting carbon out into the atmosphere, et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, can you make it a little bit bigger than what I need, because I'm going to get one of those fancy plug-in cars at some point. He says, no problem. Anyway, went through with it. I went live on December 17th. I have to say that the hardest part of the whole process was getting Duke Energy out to actually put in the meter, and then the months of phone calls to get them to not only charge me for what I used at night, but to actually credit me for what I sent them during the day. They are I'm still making more in a daytime, even on an intermittent cloudy day, so much for intermittent, right? Than I use at night. I did add that plug-in car. It's a plug-in hybrid. Thank you, Phil Compton, because you can now get these plug-in hybrids that are used for $10,000 and under, okay, to do that. I added that in June. So since I went live and I got Duke to fix the bill, my electric bills are $5.49 a month. That lets me keep the lights on at night, watch TV, have the hot water heater and the fridge running, okay? It also lets me, since June, my gasoline bill went to 0, unless I go for a really long ride, okay? So all that's pretty darn cool. And I just wanted to add a couple words about Irma. Remember, I'm sorry guys, 9 days. I'm hearing all these horrible things. I was lucky. I only was out without power for 2 days. But I never lost my fridge, I never lost my ice maker. The inverter I have on my solar system, even when the grid goes down, it lets you have a dedicated receptacle right next to the inverter. So I dropped an extension cord from there to my fridge, plugged in a power strip. I had every teenager in the neighborhood at my house in the garage charging their phones and their Game Boys. It was like a line down the street during the whole storm. So I'd grab a couple things out of the fridge at night, put them in a cooler, and I wouldn't open my fridge and freezer till the sun came up in the morning. Next thing I'm going to learn how to do is, I know that nerds can do this, I'm going to figure it out. $200 inverter. I can use my battery in my car as storage for the next time we have a hurricane. I got to figure that one out, but that's the next thing on the list. You can do it. It's really worth it.